how willing are you to watch knife content on knives that have been out for a hot minute? How's it going, everybody? I'm Rollshambo, the connoisseur and collector of all things sharp and shiny. And while you're at it, if you could hop down to the comments section, let me know if I'm just wasting my time. Please don't tell me that I'm wasting my time. Listen, this is the Arcane Designs Crawler. Now, it's not a new knife. It's been out for a minute, and everyone and their mom has done a review on this knife. But thank the Lord that we don't just do reviews here. We rank knives. That's right. I give people the context that they need to determine if that knife deserves a spot in their pocket. Have you been holding out on the Arcane Crawler? If so, if you've been on the edge, like, I don't know, maybe next drop, I don't know, this could be for you. And if you haven't seen Grail or Garbage before, here's how it works. Grail or Garbage consists of 5 categories. Those categories are materials, ergonomics, fidget factor, the lock, and fit and finish. Each of those categories is worth a max of up to 10 points, at the end of which we will be adding up those points and we will be putting it on our leaderboard, good or bad. You will have that context, at least my context. If you've been on the fence, this is for you. If you just like watching knife rankings and are curious to see how well this stacks up against the current leaders, this is also for you. And if you are killing time in the bathroom and you just need something to listen to, this is also for you. Guys, this is the Arcane Crawler. Let's go. Everybody has had a chance to review this knife. It's my turn, but we're not just going to review it. Today, we are going to rank it. This is the Arcane Designs Crawler, and this specific one is in Damasteel. Before I get too far ahead of myself, let's start off with that first category, shall we? Let's talk about the materials. Now, materials are based off of a couple different things other than what the knife is made out of. The first is the price tag. This costs $599, and it's also based on availability. And this one is not necessarily, it's not actually a custom. It's made by Bestech, I believe, is the OEM. If I'm mistaken, please feel free to let me know in the comment section. So yeah, these are available currently, and I will link them down below in case you want one. So they are available. This is not a custom. This is not a mid-tech. This is just a really, really well-built production knife. So the materials that we're talking about today at the $600 price point, what do you get? You get titanium handle scales with titanium pivot overlays. You get a titanium 3D milled pocket clip, a full body length titanium backspacer, and then of course you get the blade, which is Damasteel, not Damascus, Damasteel. Damasteel is gorgeous, and it also has similar properties to CPM 20 CV as far as how well it performs. The handle scales are very lightly stonewashed, which I think is a really nice touch. Means that you can handle this without worrying about, you know, getting scratches on there, because the good news is they already did that for you from the factory. So all in all, $600 is not cheap. You could buy 2 very well made premium knives for this price point, but neither one of those knives would actually be made out of Damasteel. Damasteel is not only gorgeous, it's also really, really good. It holds its edge for a very long time, and it's pretty much a super steel as far as that's concerned. So for those reasons, I'm going to be giving it an 8 out of 10 for materials. The inclusion of Damasteel is just amazing. By the way, you can also get Damascus pivot collars for this, I believe, or at least at one point you could. So yeah, 8 out of 10 for materials. For ergonomics, which is our next category, let's talk about that. How easy is it to hold in the hand? Is it comfortable? Does it make sense? Can you reverse the grip? Is there any hot spots? Well, there are no hot spots. This 3D mill pocket clip does a phenomenal job of not creating an issue. And in the ergonomics category, that's what we look at when we talk about the pocket clip. The handle scales are nicely chamfered and very well knocked down on those edges, and so that's pretty comfortable. It's not the most amazing thing ever. It's not hand meltingly good, but it is good. The jimping is actually sawtooth style jimping, and because of that polished out Damascene steel, it is actually rather comfortable as far as jimping is concerned, and it's the perfect length for the thumb. So for in a saber grip, that's awesome. You're going to be able to get some really good utility cuts if you decide to turn this into a user knife, and I know that some people will, but most people won't. Can you reverse grip it without issue? Absolutely. This end right here on the handle scales is not really meant for, I'll break it down. It's not really meant to be reverse gripped. Can you do it? Yes. There is no major issue. You're just not going to be able to cap it off with your thumb very well for that extra support because it comes to a rounded point. That's okay. I have a feeling that people that do carry this won't be reverse gripping it. And you know what? For all of those reasons, the ergonomics are good. They're not amazing. It gets a 7 out of 10 for ergonomics. Let's talk about the fidget factor, which is our next category. And fidget factor is more than just about the deployment options. It's also about things like the detent, the pivot action, and just how enjoyable is it to mess with. Well, the action on here is really good. Arcane uses caged bearings, and it shows because it's very smooth. This one honestly feels like it could probably use a bit of pivot lube. Some KPL would go a long way with this guy, but this is not mine, so I'm not going to go through that because it's not mine. However, I know what Arcane pivots are supposed to feel like because I have a Plexus that also has that caged bearing system, and with a little bit of lube, it's extremely smooth. So I would expect this to perform the same way with a tiny bit of KPL. I think that could go a long ways. The detent is perfectly tuned, and for deployment options, you have this deployment hole, which is good for thumb flicking, reverse flicking, and you, of course, you also have this flipper tab. And you can always tell how good a detent is if it's easy to overcome but hard to fail. And that's exactly what this is. Easy to overcome that detent, hard to fail. The flipper works really well. Reverse flicking works very well. Thumb flicking is also works well. I mean, I don't like to thumb flick deployment holes, but yeah, no, it's actually very, very good. And for those reasons, it's going to be getting an 8 out of 10 for fidget factor. Next up, let's talk about the lock. This is a frame lock, and it's a titanium frame lock, but there's some cool things going on here. One of the cool things going on here is the fact that this pivot right here, actually this pivot overlay acts as an over travel stop, so you can't push it out too far. I think that that's really cool. The cutout for that lock bar is perfectly shaped to your thumb, and so it's actually not uncomfortable to actuate that a lot of times in a row. The lockout on the blade is perfect. There is no blade play up, down, left, or right. It is solid, and there is no pivot lash or lock rock. In a closed position, that blade is very perfectly centered. At $600, it better be, and in this one, it definitely doesn't disappoint. It's rather good, especially for a frame lock, so I don't have any complaints there, and for a frame lock, I'm actually rather impressed. For the lock, it's going to be getting an 8 out of 10. And lastly, let's talk about fit and finish, and this is where this knife really shines, because fit and finish is not just about how well manufactured it is, it's also about how well executed is the design language. First and foremost, I absolutely love that Damascene steel. It's so glossy and beautiful. It's like Narnia in a blade, and I don't really know how else to describe it. It just looks really freaking good, and yet at the same time taking the time to stonewash those titanium handle scales says, hey, it's okay to handle this. You don't have to leave it in your display case. You can handle this. And that's nice as well. I like the fact that Arcane allows you to swap out the pivot overlays. If you want something a little more bougie, you can go for that. I think that that's a nice touch. And I really enjoy the fact that they thought about using those overlays as an over travel stop. The full body length backspacer is nice, and the fact that you have sawtooth jimping that is not uncomfortable is phenomenal. The deployment options are good. The ergonomics are good. All of the other categories are very solid, and it speaks volumes. The Arcane Crawler is one of those knives that you want to pick up, you want to hold, and you want to experience it. And I'm kind of sad that it's taken me this long to do so, because I love Wharncliffe blades. I really love the utilitarian aspect of them. I like how they look and how they feel. Even if we were to go so far down to that plunge grind, the plunge grind is very well done because there's no thumb studs here, and because the edge is far away from that plunge grind, you could actually sharpen this edge without having to put a smile on it with Damasteel. That is a huge plus. There's a lot of angles to this knife, and it's definitely a really cool one. For all of those reasons, it's going to be getting a 9 out of 10 for fit and finish. Now, let's go ahead and add everything up, shall we? For materials, it got an 8. For ergonomics, it got a 7. For Fidget Factor, it also got an 8. For the lock, it got an 8. And for fit and finish, it got a 9. If you add up all of those scores, you come out to a grand total of 40 out of 50. 40 out of 50 is the top end of high recommend. Is it a grail? No. Not quite. It's almost there, just not quite there as of yet. The action is something that I would like to see an improvement on, and honestly, I actually am not a huge fan of this pocket clip, even though it functions well, and even though it doesn't cause an ergonomic issue. The pocket clip is a little bit boring to me. I would have liked to have seen a little bit better ergonomics on here. The ergonomics are, they're decent, but they're not hand meltingly good. At the $600 price point, I want a bit more towards the hand melting side. For that reason, it didn't score as high as it could have. I would have liked to have seen maybe some rounded edges instead of some geometric edges. That's a personal preference. And again, this is just context for my opinion on this knife. 40 out of 50 is a really, really good score. This is the top end of high recommend, and I think that everyone that is into knives should experience an Arcane design at some point. But you let me know. Do you agree with the score? Do you disagree with the score? Let me know in the comments section down below. If you liked the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, boo-hoo, you know what to do. And if you want to see more knife rankings, more grailer garbage, make sure you hit subscribe. I'm Rollshambo. I'll catch you on the flip side.